Okay, looking at the history of Israel again, this is part three. It's about the sin and the law and the travels of the Israelites. So man was unaware of his own sinfulness. So at this time, God gives the law. And through the law, they would gain the knowledge of sin and their helplessness to fulfill the requirements of a holy God. And you'll find that information in Galatians chapter 3, verse 10, Romans chapter 3, verse 19, and chapter 7, verse 7, and in the book of James, chapter 2, verse 10. The law was given as a schoolmaster or a teacher to bring them to understand the coming Messiah, Jesus Christ, so that they could be justified by faith, according to Galatians chapter 3, verse 24. And the law told them that, and us today, that all mankind is helpless to meet the standard that God requires. It points every individual to Jesus Christ, who died to pay our penalty, which is death, according to Romans 6:23, so that we could enter into heaven. So the law was a guardian over God's people until Jesus came. And Christ gave us the means whereby we could meet these holy requirements through faith and receive the imputation of the righteousness of Christ. There are several things, however, that the law cannot do. It cannot make anything perfect, according to Hebrews chapter 7, verse 19. Neither can the law give us the Holy Spirit, according to Galatians chapter 3, verse 24. Justification comes only through the faith in Jesus Christ. So man cannot be justified by the law, according to Galatians chapter 2, verse 16. The law pointed towards things in the future. It was a shadow of things to come, according to Hebrews chapter 10, verses 1 and 9. So in the wilderness of Sinai, God gave instructions to build a tabernacle or a meeting place, similar in the focus to a church. And when it was finished, the glory of God fills the place. He fills it. And you find that in Exodus chapter 40, verse 35. God gives them the law, and the priests begin to minister. The tabernacle was used to teach them how to serve God and emphasized three things: their own sinfulness, the holiness of God, and the only way to approach God was through the high priest and the shedding of blood. A priest would be one who represents men before God. From the tribe of Levi, God chose the family of Aaron to minister to his priest at the altar, or at his altar. Aaron was the first high priest, according to Exodus chapter 28, verse 1. And according to the scriptures, Jesus Christ has fulfilled the role of the high priest, and as such has replaced the need for the Aaronic priesthood, the perfect instead of the imperfect. Jesus Christ is now our high priest, who makes intercession for us, according to Hebrews chapter 6, verse 20. Around 1438 BC, the Israelites traveled to Kadesh Barnea from Mount Sinai and sent spies into the land to search it out and report back as to the conditions there. And that's according to Numbers chapter 13, verse 17. When the spies returned, they reported there were giants in the land and discouraged the people from entering the land, according to Numbers 13, verses 31 through 32. Only two, Joshua and Caleb, reported that they should enter because God had promised them the land and would be with them. And that's in Numbers chapter 14, verses 6 through 9. God was displeased with the people for not wanting to go into the land he had promised them. In judgment, he allowed all those over 20 years old, except Joshua and Caleb, to die in the wilderness. Joshua and Caleb were the only ones of their generation to go into what we call the promised land, according to Numbers chapter 14, verse 30. So, in all, the Israelites wandered in the wilderness 40 years. And remember, all those that were over 20 years old at the beginning of the journey were now dead, except for Joshua and Caleb. And when Moses died, Joshua was appointed the new leader of Israel. And that's according to Joshua chapter 1, verses 1 through 3. The Israelites are now ready to enter the land that God promised them. This land is given to the nation of Israel for an eternal possession, as stated in Genesis chapter 17, verse 8. This cannot be fulfilled in its entirety until Israel resides in the entire land God promised and stays there forever. The outworking of God's promise through Israel does not depend upon their faithfulness. And that's according to Isaiah chapter 54, verses 10 through 17, chapter 65, verses 8 through 9, Jeremiah chapter 5, verses 10 through 11, and chapter 31, verses 35 through 37. Ezekiel chapter 16, verses 59 through 63, and Romans chapter 11, verses 26 to 29. As long as the new heavens and the new earth shall remain before God, so will the nation of Israel remain before God, according to Isaiah chapter 66, verse 29. And I thank you for listening.